And remember, when you go to the headquarters, you see the first poster that you see that says, "Do you have it in you?" And I would remember we would always salute it and say, "Yes, we do." There have been some learnings and there have been some deep learnings that will make you possibly take an informed decision whether you're doing a startup or you starting a venture is right or not right. I felt I was not technically very skilled, so I picked up something that did not require a lot of skill. I'll be honest with you. All you have to do is put your one foot in front of other and keep doing this.
So today, we have a special guest on board in our podcast series, Save with Pratap. So I just in the morning I got a text from a guy. He was saying that he is not that good in spoken English, and he wants to join our forces. And he's basically from a Tamil medium. So would he be able to make it into our forces or not? सो आज जो हमारे साथ गेस्ट आने वाले हैं वो बेसिकली उनकी कहानी कुछ ऐसी है। उत्तर प्रदेश के एक काफ़ी रिमोट गांव से वो ही बिलोंग्स टू दैट विलेज एंड उसके बाद ही वाज अ डेकोरेटेड एक्स एनसीसी कैडेट एंड आफ्टर दैट he joined Reliance Industries 22 साल की उम्र में। Can you just imagine, at the age of 22 he learned spoken English, he joined Reliance Industries and then he worked with Goldman Sachs. उसके बाद he went to pursue MBA with the prestigious Chicago booth, and right now he is the founder and CEO of a Mumbai-based fitness tech startup. So a lot of us wants to know, कि startup अगर हम लोग शुरू करना चाहते हैं या फिर हम लोग अगर एक प्लान हमारा सक्सेसफुल नहीं होता है तो हम लोग दूसरे प्लान में कैसे जा सकते हैं. So we will try to understand from his perspective, from his life experiences, and let's get him on board. Hi sir, good evening.
Hi, how are you?
All good sir, how are you doing?
Very well.
So first of all, thanks for sparing time out. I mean, thanks for being on the podcast series, and feels so awesome. I mean, I think I remember when you came to our Reliance Academy, and people were talking that ex-Reliance security officer, how his journey translated and how he's working with Goldman Sachs and went to Chicago booth for MBA. So that still is in my mind. And today, from your experiences, we would like to know, and a lot of people would be benefited, from your journey and from your life experiences.
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
No problem at all, and it's a pleasure to be here, and always a pleasure to speak with the ones who need help, and more importantly, not only help, but we all together come to be with each other, right? So that's equally important. And I do remember I coming to Nagotani. I think that's when we had interacted. So
Yes.
is it again?
Absolutely, sir. I second your opinion, sir. Exactly. Sir, to start with, basically, let's start with your personal life. I mean, it's an amazing journey. I would just like to showcase what you went through and how you reached the top. A lot of people talk about, and still they have a perception about people who are from the remote villages. क्योंकि आज भी वो लोग यही बात करते हैं कि छोटे शहर से है, छोटे से गांव से है, तो शायद इनके सपने भी छोटे ही होंगे. And most of the people also have a perception that people who transit from villages to the metro cities, and when they are not good at speaking English, so what happens is they do not fit into that group of people. So they are उनको उस नज़रिए से नहीं देखा जाता है, उनको इंक्लूड भी नहीं किया जाता है ग्रुप में. एंड 22 साल की उम्र में you learned spoken English. You joined Reliance Industries. You worked with Goldman Sachs. You went to pursue MBA with one of the prestigious institutions, Chicago booth, and now you're a founder of a Mumbai-based fitness tech startup, Fitpage. What kept you motivated? What kept you going? And that 22 साल की उम्र में जो आपने इंग्लिश के ऊपर जो कमांड रखी, how you did that?
Yeah, when I look at in the hindsight, or when you think of it, you'll think it seems like everything was planned out, but nothing was planned out, right? I will start from the start. I remember in the class 11th, uh, I failed, and I primarily failed because before learning English, you needed to learn Hindi. And back in the village, we did not even speak Hindi. We spoke our local dialect in the village. And I remember having a hard time being able to understand even Hindi. And remember having conversation with the owner of the house, owner of the lodge, who will say, "Hey, you need to speak Hindi. You need to speak in Hindi." They'll call it खड़ी बोली, I remember, and then say, यार खड़ी बोली में बात तो करो, आप गांव के हो, ठीक है, लेकिन यहाँ पे तो आपको इंग्लिश में नहीं, तो आप हिंदी में तो बात करो at least. So that is where the start was. And I remember when I failed, I received a letter from my mother, and mom was the one who built all of us, right? She taught us it's fine wherever you start, doesn't matter. So long as you are not content to just be in that situation, it's okay. And I remember the letter that she sent me. I still have it at home. And she said in Hindi, she wrote, but what it meant is when you are a part of Club Zero, the only way is up, right? When you have nothing to lose, all that you would do is you would gain. And so long as you are not in the negative, that is okay. And at the same time, it also looked that, hey, you cannot just be a part of Club Zero. At least you need to be at one to start with. And so how do you do it? When we are in a village, when people say that you dream less or you dream small because you are from a village, that's a lie. Because it's in the villages where aspirations are born. They are born there originally. And then it all starts to make sense over a period of time. If you're not in a village, if you do not see the hardship that we saw, high chances that you'll be content with whatever you get. And if you don't know what it is to be in adversity, how would you plan to get out of it, right? So I think the hunger to be better should be more than the hunger to be feeding yourself, and that will keep you going is what I think and truly believe in. Back then, we did not know any of it. All we knew, and I remember the first thing I knew was I did not want to be in the village because I felt यार अगर गांव में रहूंगा तो मुझे डेली मुझे गाय लेके जाना होता है खेत में और गोबर उठाना होता है. That's not what I wanted to do. And so my mom said, if that's the case, you should get to the city, and for you to get there, you need to have some money. And so I said, okay, let's try and get a admission school nearby, and that is how things started. And then slowly, everything started to fall in place. And as we progress, as we discuss, I'm happy to talk through it. But I think it all started with कि मुझे गाय चरा के और गोबर नहीं उठाना है. That is how it was. And I was escaping from what the situation was, but more importantly, it also felt like at least you should have some money in your pocket. You should not live empty hand all the time. You should be able to make your meals. And so long as you are able to make and have enough resources that you can earn your meals, that's okay. That is how it started. I remember first time when I started to think, I thought अगर मैं सिपाही बन जाऊं तो अच्छा है, अगर पुलिस कांस्टेबल बन जाऊं तो अच्छा है. That is how it started. And then I remember back then my mom will say, and the people in the village will say, you can't get that because there was a system that you needed to facilitate, you needed to pay to be somewhere, and we did not have any of that. And that's why I said, okay, chalo aur padhte hain, we will see where to get to. All I knew was that if you want to stay outside this village, you need to study. So I continued to study. I did not fool with myself, and I think that worked out over a period of time.
Oh, what an amazing journey, sir. I mean, and this really inspires that, your aspirations can take you anywhere. Sir, as you have also been a part of NCC, and right now, hundreds and thousands of, people aspire to join Indian Armed Forces.
Yeah.
And at some point of time, you also have been a hardcore defense aspirant.
Yeah.
And, what happens is, due to the selection criteria and the rate of selection, a lot of people are not able to make into the armed forces. So
Yeah.
they get demoralized, and they just find it difficult to, find the interest in whatever they are pursuing. For example, they join any company or any organization. They find it difficult to be, in the affinity towards that working culture.
Yeah.
So according to you, and what would be your piece of advice to those guys who, if not get succeeded in plan A, and they just move with the flow of plan B, and they just enter some other world. So what would be your piece of advice for them?
Sure. I think, look, who would know better than me? I remember I used to draw sketches of being a lieutenant and being a captain. I would look at all sorts of medals that will come my way, and I remember I get goosebumps when I think of it. Even now, I would think as soon as I complete my graduation, I'm going to go through CDS and get through SSB and become an army officer. That was my aim, ultimate aim. It just seemed like life evolved around that, right? So it was a pretty deep and narrow focus that I wanted to get there. Now think of it, how this evolved to start with. I joined NCC by chance. I joined NCC because someone told me, if you join NCC, Sunday को समोसा मिलता है और मिठाई मिलती है, ठीक है? And that's a privilege, trust me. When you have not had that, right, and you have not been able to afford it, it's any privilege that comes your way, you want to grab on it. And that is where I started. When I started, like I said earlier, the aim was to stay away from the village. Now the aim was, if you are in NCC, do it right, do it well, because that just becomes like, when we are farmers, we like to do things right. The same thing you keep doing over and again, same field you keep going to. And so the thought was that मेहनत करने से तो कोई ऐसे भी नहीं डरता था. तो आई वाज लाइक, ठीक है, मेहनत करना अच्छे से करते हैं, एंड हु बेटर देन अस. हमने इतना दिन हल चलाया है, यहाँ कुछ भी कर लेंगे, नो प्रॉब्लम. And I started to first work in, I was in the army wing of NCC, and then I served there for a year. And the second year, naval wing, they called me and they said, hey, why don't we directly enroll you in the second year? So I went there, spent 2 years, did every possible camps that are possible. I was senior cadet captain there. I felt that, hey, it's a decorated rank. Every medal that is there, when you win, you feel good about it. And then you see the natural extension of being in the Navy, being in the Naval NCC, is that you want to get to armed forces. Somehow I did not have as good fascination back then for Navy, because I always felt, यार मुझे इंग्लिश तो आती ही नहीं है, तो ये कभी मुझे लेने वाले नहीं है. एंड आई थॉट आर्मी में तो जा सकता हूँ, इनकी इंग्लिश बाद में ठीक है देखा जाएगा. एंड आई रिमेंबर trying to work on the physical aspects of it, where I would complete all the obstacles that were there. I would right, NCC grounds where you find all of these. So I'll just monkey around everywhere, find the 8 feet wall, keep jumping, and like Pitchulat ke bhagna, and all of that was very normal. And I'd be like, yeah, if you go there and become an officer, you should become a NSG commando. Then you do all of that, like everything that you would read back then. And remember, when you go to the headquarters, you see the first poster that you see that says, do you have it in you? And I would remember we would always salute it and say, yes, we do. And that's how things work, right? And when you still do not make it, I remember going to 22 SSD in Bhopal, and that was during my graduation, and I went from CDS, and I remember going there, and I was a conference out. You felt miserable. I felt miserable. Like it was a whole laughable experience. पहली बार किसी के सामने बैठा था, but like ठीक है, वापस आया, and then the parallel that was going here, that was, you have one aim that you want it.
Yeah.
But the second point is that your parents want you to make a living. They want you to start earning. I was 19, and they were looking at you to start earning so that they can live better. They are ailing, they are growing old, and things like those, right? When we come from a lower middle class families, our not struggles, but our story is very different. हमें ये होता है यार कि कितना पैसा मिलेगा कि बगल वाले का पूरा लोन हम पूरा भर सकते हैं, कितना पैसा मिलेगा कि उसके बाद एटलीस्ट बहन की शादी करनी है तो अब डाउरी दे के चीज़ें कर सकते हैं. थिंग्स लाइक दोज, राइट? दोज वर द प्रायोरिटीज. I remember buying a refrigerator for the very first time, and I did not feel any more satisfied after that by doing even purchasing anything else I wanted to purchase in life, because the first that you do that you are able to share that ice cream with your mother, the first that you're able to refrigerate that water and drink it, it's just priceless. And I feel people who are rich, they don't see any of it. And so they will not see value of it, for example. And when I remember it happened that the selection from Reliance happened, and the only criteria for me to select Reliance was that the salary seemed similar to an army officer in the start and during training. तब हमें 6,600 रुपए मिलते थे. And I was like, dude, this is better. I think इतना तो बहुत है. Not knowing that 6,600 में 4,000 का तो आप खाना खा लेते हो. Right? It's like this. And I was someone who would eat like beef chapati to aram se khan. Right? And I joined Reliance, and then I also felt that Reliance is an entry point. You can always go to the army. And I kept applying, kept trying. But as you saw world, you saw there is so much more to it than just being very deeply focused on one thing. Not saying that I did not want to do it. I was terribly wanting to go to armed forces. But when I felt, yeah, I'm getting to now be 22, 23 years, and I know I can't go because my age is going to be like about 23. And for me to keep going is that earn more money and things like those, right? And it continued to hurt me. But after a few years, I started to see that, hey, you possibly need to look at life differently. When your success metric is one directional, it will hurt you. When your success metric is that I'm going to go to army or nothing, or any other job, nothing. Like, for example, from UP, MP, Bihar, Rajasthan, most of us want to become IS officers, right? Because when you were dreaming in the village, all you could dream of, this is the big thing that could happen to you. You were not aware of anything else. But when you have only one success metric to measure against, you find that you are a failure if you do not get selected. No, I felt if I was not selected in the army, that means that day in that interview, I was not good enough for what the armed forces wanted. Does not mean I'm not good enough, right? If I was not good enough, I would fail everywhere. If I was not good enough, I would not be good in anything, for example. So I felt they have certain criteria. You need to fit in that frame. Maybe that frame is not for you. My point is why you want to try and fit in yourself in a frame. Or if you tried and you were unsuccessful, why are you blaming yourself? Maybe the frame did not deserve you, right? Maybe you were born to look at some other success metric. You were supposed to do something else. And I remember having a conversation with someone when I was at Mogastelli, and he said, Vikas, if you really want to serve the community, if you really want to serve people of your village, you possibly want to look at how meaningfully you can earn more money. If you're financially more stable, you can support more people. You can make them aware by doing other things, telling them the dreams that they have exposure to many other things, which you will not be able to do if you go to armed forces or, for example, become a civil services officer. It is possible, but there is another way of looking at life, and that's something that continued to be with me. And I felt when you change your success metric, high chances that you will feel a lot more satisfied. You will feel a lot more content. One other thing to keep in mind that is that being successful or not is just an outward. What you need to enjoy a lot more is what have you put in, right? There are two ways to be satisfying yourself. One way you could say, hey, I was fair enough, I was not good enough here, I go somewhere else and try. This person may have worked very, very hard, but on the other hand, you'll find another person who's just been lazing around Instagram reel pe ya fir मैं तो इतना live कर रहा है, right? And then after that, I'm saying, yeah, I wanted to go to army. If you're doing this day in, day out, it better be a profession, for example, right? I always say, I don't want to wake up every morning to watch Instagram reels because that's not my profession. It has to be done in your free time. Not that becomes your profession. Unless that is your profession, you must not do it. So I think a long-winded answer, but there are so many things that we need to look at when we look at life. And at times it only comes as you become more experienced. As you see in the past, you will see that things start to just, look that they were not as difficult as you thought of them being difficult back then.
Absolutely, sir. I mean, and this is something, a serious piece of advice that all those, who are not able to make into forces or who are trying repeatedly again and again, I mean, they need to pay heed to these advices. Sir, moving ahead, a lot of people also aspire to uh, start their own sort of, organization, startup or company. कई बार उनके दिमाग में ये रहता है कि चलो यार खुद का काम शुरू करते हैं. But due to lack of support or lack of proper guidance or lack of funds or anything, any of the reasons, they're not able to make that they aspire to do. Now, what happens is, suppose if someone is, having an active income, if someone is working in a 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 job for that matter, now he is having a passive income as well. Not that much, but he is having something to support or a side hustle sort of thing. How good it would be, to leave that active income and completely devote yourself into that passive income sort of thing, unless it is a successful, entity. And would it be right to, leave your active income source or completely devote yourself into that startup or whatever you side hustle you are doing? So would it be that okay?
Sure. Look, there is no one way to look at it, right? How I looked at it, I could share, and that will possibly help. And there have been some learnings, and there have been some deep learnings that will make you possibly take an informed decision whether you're doing a startup or you starting a venture is right or not right, right? I always believe in whatever decision you make, you should feel you are responsible for it, not someone else. When you have made a decision to do X or Y, but that is because you want to do it, not because tomorrow you're going to blame your parents and say, आपने मुझे पैसा नहीं दिया नहीं तो मैं यहाँ पहुँच जाता, आपने मुझे यहाँ support किया होता तो मैं यहाँ चली जाती, and things like those, right? The first thing you have to see that are you able and are you ready to take the responsibility when everything goes south? And this one is important because when you make yourself accountable for the success of it and also for everyone around it for the success of them, you will see, you will shiver and think whether it is really worth it or not. The second point that will be that when you want to do something, you'll only look at the positives of it. You will never look at the negatives of it. It's like, remember, जब पहली बार प्यार होता है ना हमें, पहली बार कोई लड़की दिखती है लड़की लड़के से लगता है इससे अच्छा कोई दुनिया में है नहीं, कोई नेगेटिव नहीं दिखता है ना? हमें लगता है our life revolves around that person, and आसपास किसी ने भी नेगेटिव अगर बोला तो we will think कि this person wants to steal this person away from me or doesn't like me being with this person, and that's why these situations come. Now, when you think of it, क्या actually ऐसा है? Actually ऐसा नहीं है, right? When you are over a period of time when you've had few relationships, then you realize, अरे यार मैं कहाँ था, right? और मैं कहाँ थी, right? It's all a learning. Same thing is sure that do you want to do this is because you just woke up from one side and you realize there is this idea that came in your mind and you thought, yeah, I want to do this, or is it that you were truly passionate about solving a problem? I always think when you want to solve for a problem, try to look at two things. One is that problem, is it that it really is a problem that needs to be solved for? And I'll give you an example. That is, say before Uber came or before Ola came, if you were in Mumbai or any other city, one of the things you would always want to do, that is not haggle with the rickshaw walas, with the taxi walas. Mumbai में तो तब better. अब मुंबई में तो रिक्शा वाले बेचारे जाते हैं. But other cities you will not have the same situation. And now the problem here was pretty unique. That was that how do you get these rickshawalas to not haggle with me and go by meter, right?
Yeah.
Uber and Ola sort for it. Today, think of your life and conveyance without them. That means that was a real problem they were wanting to solve. Whatever that problem be, any field that is it. If the problem is not strong enough, you will not be able to capture a market or rather create another market, right? The problem should be strong enough that needs to be solved for. And you should be able to identify that, hey, this is why I want to do this. The second point will be, it should be it should be strong enough problem for large scale of people. ऐसा नहीं कि आज मैं उठा, मैं रास्ते में जा रहा था, मैं यहाँ गिर गया, घंटा था, तो गड्ढा बंद करने वाली मशीन लगा दी, right?
True.
That's not a problem at scale. You need to look at, is the problem that you are trying to solve for is big enough that needs to be solved for, right? For example, in India, there are about 70 million people who are obese. So we were thinking, even if I'm able to capture 1% of that market, I'm big enough, I've been able to positively impact life of big enough people. If that volume was just 6,000 people, और उसका मैं 1% लेता, 60 लोग, ठीक है, I will solve a problem, but is that sustainable? It is not sustainable. First point that I told you helps you make the decision whether you should do something or not. The second one helps you make a decision whether that is sustainable or not. That is financially sustainable. Is it scalable enough that people would be ready to invest in it or not? And if it is something that's not investable by someone else, if it is something that you see the problem is not big enough, you possibly are not doing the right thing by starting that right way, right? And the third point that I didn't tell should be that why you are the person who should be starting that business, right? If you want to just do it because you think that will give you some income, that's okay. But if you want to start a venture that is truly solving a problem at scale, it better be that you are the one who is most qualified to be doing it, right? For example, if I want to solve for a problem that is a doctor's problem, either I need to know that and I'm qualified to solve for it, or I have someone in the team who is qualified, right?
Yeah.
If that's not the case, you will see high chances that over a period of time, it will fail. And the point you also asked, whether when you are in active job and you make enough money, whether at that point you should be making a decision to go and start a venture or not. This one is personal. In my case, what I did, I said, I'm going to have a savings of 5 years, whatever it takes. And even if everything goes bust, I will be able to live and survive with my lifestyle that I have. And then within that much time, I will be able to figure out what I want to do next, for example. And that is how I made the decision. I made the decision objectively and not just because of the love of it, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess you need to take an informed decision. I mean, as you said, like you had 5 years of saving and you knew that you would be able to survive with the lifestyle that you live. So, I mean, again, the calculations, you have to take the informed decision. Sir, now coming to your area of expertise, that is marathons. I mean, 150 plus half and full marathons. Also, you have represented in the international platform as well. How it all started? I mean, marathons, what it means to you, and how was the journey? How it all started?
See, it is not my area of expertise, if you ask me. I simply am an enthusiast who loves the sport of moving and loves a sport that comes very naturally and it's very easy. I felt I was not technically very skilled, so I picked up something that did not require a lot of skill. I'll be honest with you. All you have to do is put your one foot in front of other and keep doing this. Right? All you have to do is that. And I was very good at it. Like, you give me something that I need to do repeatedly, I had control over how much hard work I'll put in, right? So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not good enough in other things, but I am okay at this. So I decided I started running. I did not run just like this, but it also happened that back in the village, so मेरे गाँव से जो मेरा स्कूल था वो करीब 5-6 किलोमीटर दूर था. मम्मी वहाँ पे जाती थी और पढ़ाने के लिए, और हम ही 4-5 लोग ही स्कूल में थे इन द स्टार्ट. तो मुझे मम्मी के साथ में जाना होता था. तो जाओगे आप कैसे? So the only way was that you walk with your mother. And mom will walk fast, and I was very small, so I had to almost run to catch up with her. I would try to catch her finger when she's walking, and that almost became a habit over a period of time. earlier I'd get tired, so she'll pick me up and all of that. Kahin koi cycle mil gayi, us pe bitha diya and things like those. Over a period of time, it just felt that this was fun. When you are in that process, मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा मजा आता था स्कूल जाने में. स्कूल में कोई मजा नहीं आता था लौट के आने में, because you're with your mother for an hour and you just chit chatting and coming. You'll talk about everything in life, and you are this tiny. Your mother is trying to teach you everything. You listen to most of it, don't understand many of it, and don't agree to any of it, and things like those. So this is where it started. And then I also saw एनसीसी में ये भी होता था ना कि आप पहले अगर दौड़ के आगे तो आप बैठो, आराम करो, खाओ पियो,
True.
समोसा तुम्हारी चॉइस वाला मिल जाता है,
Yeah.
ठीक है, मिठाई रखी होती है, जो बर्फी खाना हो खा लो. And I loved cashew cutlery, and I was like, dude, I even run fast, वहाँ जाके सबसे पहले खाना है, right? That was my intent.
Yeah.
And then I realized over a period of time, this was something I was good at. I continued with it, came to Reliance, and I started doing the cross country. Remember that
Yeah.
used to happen.
Yeah.
Pehle it will be 1500 meters, then 800 meters. And I remember 5 minutes, 12 seconds was my 1500, then 2:11 was 800, and 36 something was for 10K. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it terribly because वो group runs होती है, right? कि
Yeah.
the person who comes first gets the maximum mark and all of that. So मेरे group में होता था, सब कहते तू जा भाग के पहले आगे आ जाओ, एक दो रोटी हम तीन. And and it just continued. And when I subsequently started to look at, that was me time. That was something that was making me feel a lot better, and I continued at it. When I traveled internationally with my colleagues and friends, I saw there were a lot more tracks where there were real tracks. By road, you could run or walk or cycle. And I tried doing that. Then I went to both. You could study and then run by the Michigan Lake and things like those. In New York City, you can run almost everywhere, etc. It just kept being more and more enjoyable, and that converted into you going and attending different events and all of that. So yeah, it just naturally kept happening, I would say. And I even today I try to just have fun with it. I just go and do a couple of marathons every year, and then a few half marathons in the year, and a lot more 10K. That's what I try and keep doing.
I guess for a normal person who has never been into marathon, it's a lot. So
And
yeah.
no, I was saying, look, it is true, but at any point when you leave it, it's very hard to restart. I remember आज सुबह ही बात कर रहा था मैं किसी से, we had gone for a run, and we were talking 3 महीने आप रन छोड़ दो, उसके बाद दो पोल भी एक दूसरे से बहुत दूर लगते हैं, लगता है कब पहुंचोगे यहाँ पे. And it's really hard, but when you try to keep being at it, it just starts to work out.
That's right. That's right. Sir, coming to the end of the podcast, I mean, as you said, like 70 million people would be suffering from obesity in the upcoming years because they are not into the physical activity of any sort of physical activity. And similarly, it's applicable for the global level as well. A lot of people will be suffering from obesity, and this is the root cause of other diseases as well.
Yeah.
What would be your piece of advice to stay physically fit and avoid any kind of such diseases?
Sure. See, I won't say that the diseases can be they can be avoided at all, right? But I would say your chances of getting it can be significantly reduced. Understand first the importance of cardiovascular fitness. That makes your quality of life a lot better. And once you understand that, you need to understand if you chose the way that you want to stay fit, either it is that you are ignoring a number of symptoms today and taking pills, and then tomorrow you're forced to be in a hospital or things like those, or in other ways you rather sweat, and then you are able to make a lot more sustainable living, right? So when you do this, that could be significantly better. If someone wants to start, I would say you start by focusing on your cardiovascular fitness. That is by you starting and trying to get 30 minutes of continual walking and running in. You can start doing that for about 5 days a week. That will take you for 2.5 to 3 hours on your feet. If you do that, that's a start enough. That's a good enough point in the start. Try try to increase it by 5 to 10% in terms of minutes every week. And don't try to run too fast. Try to, like I said, you can walk for 2 minutes, run for half a minute, walk for 2 minutes, run for half a minute and complete 30 minutes. Something like that could be a good start point. And once you are in habit of starting to walk and run almost every day, then you can graduate into either increasing your intensity or the duration of the workout. That could be a good start point.
Got it, sir. Uh, so, sir, this is like the end of the podcast. I mean, I had a great conversation with you. I mean, I believe a lot of people would be benefited from the conversation we had, your life experiences that you shared, and your amazing journey. And for all the people who, are keen for, running marathons and starting their running journey, just check out the Fitpage and like Instagram page and download the app, and I'm sure you'll find it interesting. And thank you very much, sir, for being on the page. And we'll see you soon, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here, and you're doing a good job. In the start, you start to feel that how will it happen? It's a tedious job and a lot of labor up, right? So you would see that